Hey guys, welcome back. We are now on part 11 of our Disco Enterprise refit build, so let's get right to it. We now have our beauty lights installed into our strongbacks here. This is the last thing I needed to do before I could get these ready for pylon installation. We now have our strongbacks installed into the pylons. You can see how nice and straight that angle is. Probably better than I've done on any of these kits I've assembled. For the edge of the pylon, I just used some tester's model glue, but for our inside of the pylon, our main connecting point, I used 2-part Gorilla epoxy, and that thing is solid as a rock. I've now rebuilt the walls to both of our sets, and I've test fit them to the inside of our hull to make doubly, triply sure that they fit in there properly. We now have some glass installed into our windows here. It's a little difficult to see, but it is there. And that's just the lid from a sandwich container that I cut to shape. Easy peasy. We now have our sets installed in our secondary hull. Here on the port side is our bar and grill area. It is rather difficult to show this off on camera, but in person you can see in there, and the effect is very nice. On the starboard side is our rec deck equivalent. Now I'm not quite getting the amount of illumination into those rooms that I want, but that will be remedied soon enough. Our strongbacks have 3 strip LEDs installed into them, and that should provide even more illumination for those areas. I now have to get our pylons and strongbacks installed into here, and those just go on these little edges and little tiny pieces of plastic jutting out from them. I also have more work to do on the secondary hull. Underneath here, I want to get some dummy wires installed into that hole right there. Those will run down to our base, but I'm going to be running all the wires out where our deflector array goes, and I'll need something to tie those in there. That seam there that I'm pointing out will have to be dealt with as well. I also have to get one more LED right back in there for a beauty light. And of course, we need to install our fiber optics. While test fitting our strongback to the secondary hull, I discovered an issue. This is why you should test fit all of your pieces before assembly. And look at it from multiple angles too. What might look right from one angle might not from the other. You might discover after you've glued it, it's not quite square and it's all kittywampus and you have to take it apart. So up at the front here, we have a step. In fact, a major step. In fact, a step and a little bit of a gap. At the back here, we have the same thing going on. We have a step that's even worse. Right there, where it comes together. Now, these pieces are right on those tabs underneath, but you can see right there the step, and there's the step. So I've built a couple of bulkheads out of some styrene plastic that we'll be putting into place to remedy that situation. We now have these installed into our secondary hull. For the outside edge here, I used model glue, but I went back in on the inside and reinforced that with our 2-part epoxy all along this edge in the front and the back, and that is rock solid hard. I let these dry for a good 5 hours. You can see that is nice and square right there. And on our other side, it is equally nice and square. Now I will have to address this seam up in front and in back. That top seam though is actually part of the grid line, so we're going to have to do a little bit of rescribing after we fill it in. Now I have to tie all of our wiring together. You can see our mains here, we've got our mains there, we've got our little flashers coming in from our pylons. So I'm going to tie this all together and stick it out the front for now. We now have all our wiring together. I even went ahead and used a zip tie for some extra class. I braided together our flashers just to keep them separate from our mains. Don't have to use sticky tape that way and mark them off. However, you can see our wiring through all our windows, so we'll have to put something opaque in them so you can't see in the hull. And a quick little lighting test to make sure everything's working properly. And here's a light test in lower lights. I really dig that pylon light. That beauty light is slowly becoming my favorite. Since we can't really see the grills from this angle, let's just move it up a little bit. Yeah, those are looking really nice. So are Bassards up there. Now, as I had my thumb on there, I noticed our registry lights are a little bit warm. Those LEDs being right on the plastic warm it up quite a bit. So we're going to have to be careful and not keep this thing lit for extended periods of time. But that is what we're going to call it this week, you guys. Next week, we are going to get this sandwich together. We're going to work on the base and the neck and see if we have time to get that saucer installed. So I want to thank all of my old subs. I want to thank all of my new subs. You guys are tubular. And until next time, you guys take care.